All right, people, I have a slightly critical, well, slightly would be an understatement. I have a critical piece that I'm going to be talking about today. And it concerns the philosophy of this brother, Alex Charfen. He runs the Brotherhood, the Society of Men, Intention, Integrity, and Discipline. And what I'm going to be doing today is challenging some of the aspects of this philosophy that I personally believe do more harm than good. But before I do that, I want to make something clear. I have a lot of respect for Alex as a business professional. He's been around for a long time. He's given me feedback that was incredibly helpful in my business. Some of our clients have actually worked with him. He's a good guy, and I believe what he's doing comes from a good place. We call it good volition. He wants to help other people. However, um, I've been just surprised at the number of things he has said that just go so against some of the things that we believe here at Porn Reboots. And I think shooting a video like this is not just for me. Alex and I are chatting privately, just so you know. There's no animosity. There was definitely a little bit of headbutting earlier on. But without further ado, I'm going to jump through this. I'm going to be as respectful as I can. And I'd love to know you guys' take on this because I know some guys might be on Alex's side. Okay, but let's just go through his post, and I'll actually start with the one that got my attention early on, right? Um, Actually, let me just talk about this one. This one was more recently. So he says, brother, if your mission comes before your marriage, you are building a house of cards. There is a model in the men's space that says a man must prioritize his mission above everything else, that his deepest purpose comes first, that he orients to his calling. If he orients to his calling, everything else will fall in place. Don't worry, I'm not going to read the whole thing out. The model helped a lot of men stand up. It helped men stop collapsing into approval seeking and emotional reactivity. It helped me. But when I applied it to my marriage, the house of cards eventually came down. I told myself I was building something bigger than both of us. I convinced myself I was doing it for her. So here's the issue I have with this. Um, your mission, as far as I am concerned, should be something that far transcends the marriage that you have, the agreement that you have with a woman, even if that is a spiritual agreement. Your mission is something that is beyond you and beyond her. This world that we live in was created by men and women who had a massive mission. There are a few characteristics of a mission, but the first thing we need to recognize is that whatever your mission slash purpose is, it is a privilege. It is not something that everybody gets to have. It is even, I would go as far as to say, a luxury. I've lived in many countries, and let me tell you this, most of the world's population, most men, do not have the opportunity to have a purpose or a mission. They are just going out there to survive and put bread on the table for their families. That's the first thing. It is a privilege. The second thing is there are a lot of men who confuse their big goal to build a business or to make something of themselves in lives as their mission. And that's okay if they do that, but understand that that is not something that is bigger than you. If I use, let's say, Martin Luther King, for example, that's an example of a mission, or what Gandhi was doing. That's a mission. These individuals understood that they were probably not going to see it accomplished, right? That they were going to die before that happened. They were playing their part on that stage. Now, I'm just setting that up because this leads to the next thing, right? Um, his deepest purpose comes first. It does come first. And if he orients to his calling, everything else will fall into place. Now, I agree with him on one thing. If you believe that having a mission means everything else is going to fall into place, well, that is a fallacy. Having a mission means that you're going to work really hard. Life is going to disappoint you many times, and you have chosen to walk a path that most people did not. You are going to be persecuted. So if a man thinks that, oh, everything is going to fall into place, I doubt he has a mission. I doubt he's going to last even 2 weeks on his mission. He says that man helped a lot of men stand up. It helped men stop collapsing into approval seeking and emotional reactivity, and it helped him. But when I applied it to my marriage, the house of cards eventually came down. And that is the key right there, a house of cards. If you truly have a mission, it is unlikely it is going to be a house of cards. It is something that does good in the world. He says, I told myself that I was, and I want to clarify one thing as I'm talking. This is my style of speaking. So just because I speak with passion does not mean I have anger in my heart. It's just the way JK speaks, if you've never heard me before, okay? I speak this way. I told myself I was building something bigger than both of us. I convinced myself I was doing it for her. That is a contradiction, okay? I told myself I was building something bigger than both of us. But if you were truly building something bigger than both of you, then why, if you simultaneously told yourself I'm doing it for her, then it was not bigger than both of you? Do you get what I'm saying? If it was a true mission, it would be bigger than both of you. You would not say, I'm doing this for my wife. Now, a man could say, I'm doing it for my children because I'm doing it for everybody else, but your wife is ideally a partner with you and a complement to your relationship as you are a complement to her life. Right? So there's a contradiction there. I personally, from what I'm reading, maybe I'm misunderstanding, that does not sound like it was a true mission, right? And when you apply that mindset of something that is bigger than you to your marriage, it is obviously not going to hold, because a mission is not like better than your marriage. It is just different. You can have a huge mission and you can have a marriage, and both of those things can exist if only your partner is on board with you. If your partner is not on board with you, or your mission comes after, timeline wise, that relationship was established, then yeah, there are going to be some problems, right? Okay, so I'm just going to address that part, because that's where it begins, right? And if that's the premise of what is being said here, I know he's going to, let me just jump in. Let me just give it the benefit of the doubt and go through with the rest of this. What I realized is that later, when the bond of my relationship was unstable, my mission destabilized as well. Again, it's really hard for me to even continue with this, right? Because again, if you have a big mission, your relationship cannot destabilize it. The mission comes first. A man who is on a mission doesn't go like, hey, sorry guys, I can't lead the country anymore and I can't lead you guys because my relationship at home is destabilized. He's not going to say that. We wouldn't be here today. It would be very clear. He would have to go on the mission. If you are on a mission and you have a partner at home who is complementing and supporting you, it should not be destabilized, unless you are not really on a mission and you just had a big goal. Okay? It's going to be hard for me to continue because I don't want to come across as overly critical, but every line here is doing that for me. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's go back to the original one, okay? That kicked all of this off, okay? And it was a statement that Alex has made, okay? And just so you know, I agree with him on some things, like this one. And I'm just scanning through it. I've not read everything. If your belief system tells you that you have a right to your wife's body, it's not sacred. I agree with that. You do not have a right to your wife's body. It is controlled, disguised as holiness, and it's destroying marriages. 100% with that. It is not a rejection of faith. It's a rejection of religious dogma and institutionalized compliance being used inside intimate relationships. I am 1000% on board with Alex on this. I do think religious dogma has been used as a replacement for a lot of inner work that men could do. So we do align on some things. Let's see. Give me one moment here. Let me just pull it up. It's going to show up. It's going to pop up because something is going to come up in me. And it has to do with objectification. Okay. Here we go. This is it. Objectification is violence. Close your container for the safety of those around you and yourself. Now, I challenged Alex very directly on this. And the reason why I did is because the word violence is a very, very powerful word. And this is where harm is being done, okay? Let me talk about harm with the previous one, with the mission. If a man is not made aware that his purpose and his mission is actually a luxury, and that in reality, many men do not have that option. Many men are not even told that the work you do as a gardener, a laborer, a shoe cleaner, that can be purpose or mission. They are not even aware of that because most of the world is trying to survive. It is an incredibly privileged perspective, and I know this because I came from literally nothing, and I had to find one for myself. All right. So the harm it does is that you have men thinking they have a mission and assuming that they cannot have a mission and a partner. It is okay if you don't have a mission. Your mission can coexist with your partner as long as your partner is supportive of it and you yourself, separate from the mission, are supportive of your partner. I would even go as far as to say that under the right circumstances, the feminine, in some cases, is designed to support the masculine when the masculine is living up to its potential. But that's a whole different thing, okay? That's the harm there. Objectification is violence. Close your container for the safety of those around you and for yourself. Here's the issue. Objectification is not violence. And I'll explain why. I know Alex has his own explanation of this. When it comes to violence, violence is physical harm against another person. That is the definition. Now, there's one or two other contexts in which violence is used, and that is when we are describing the power of something, the violence of the storm, the violence of the hurricane, and to a lesser degree, I was surprised at the violence of my emotion, right? The violence of my emotion and the descriptive use of violence is more common to the feminine, I'm generalizing, than it is to the masculine. The masculine lives in a violent world, as does the feminine, but the difference is this. Women carry the anxiety of knowing that men are bigger and stronger, and at any moment a man can turn on her and inflict violence on her. And she's not guessing. There are thousands and thousands of years of held experience in the body of women being subjected to the violence of men. It is an experience a woman has that I can only speak of, but I do not understand it. But you know what I do understand? I do understand being on the receiving end of violence and simultaneously being able to physically inflict violence. And I want to make this clear to men. Women can physically inflict violence, but a woman's form of violence is mostly mental and emotional because that is what she has been equipped with. A man's form of violence is overtly physical. So when I see somebody say objectification is violence, I understand you're not talking about physical violence, but what I do understand is that the root of that definition comes from a feminized point of view. That means the training for this was heavily influenced by the feminine, and there is nothing wrong with it. However, one should not argue, and Alex and I have gone back and forth with this, to say like, no, it is violence. It is violence. You are going to have many men come up against this because men actually understand what it is to be able to deal violence. So when you call it violence, you are neutering the man. Why? Because violence is not bad. It is not good. It is not bad. It exists. And all men should be capable of violence. Right? Capable of violence. If somebody came in here and started assaulting the woman that I'm with, my partner, I will use violence to de-escalate. And it would not be yapping violence. It would not be emotional violence. It would be physical, brutal, cancel Christmas sort of violence. And that is what it is for men. So a lot of people came up against Alex for this. And Alex, if you're not aware, that is the reason why. Okay? Women have the right to talk about objectification being violence. Why? Because if they can get men to believe that objectification directly equates to violence, then they are more protected. So yes, they have every reason to even have an agenda to call objectification violence. And I am not against that because I'm not a woman, but I'm fully aware that women are the victims of men's violence. I have no issue with that. But when you use it as a man, men go like, well, that's a feminized way of saying it. I have a problem with it. I do not see it as violence. What men do see objectification as is taking a woman and applying the characteristics of an inanimate object to her. So when a man sees a woman, it is not violence. When a man sees a woman and he objectifies her, he is not interested in who she is as a human being. He has been trained by his father, his brothers, his uncle, men before him, or pornography, to actually remove everything that makes that woman a human being and judge her by her breasts, her buttocks, the way she looks, her hair, how he can use her as an object. This is an iPhone, this is an iWatch. I don't care much for them. If I lose them, I'll be temporarily upset, but I don't care because I can replace them. They have utility. Their utilities for call, text, time, all that stuff. When you look at a woman only for the utility, you are more likely to see her for just sex and for her capacity to bear children. So for your sexual pleasure and what she can do for that, and for more manipulative men, for what you can extract from her emotionally and so on. Is that directly violence? No, it is not. In fact, a man is minimizing objectification when he jumps straight to the violence because he does not understand what the violence means. When women say objectification is violence, they are jumping to their lived experience of it. And if you cannot bridge the gap and explain that to men, why objectification is violence, and you just say objectification is violence, it is definitely violence, and you do not break it down, then there's a problem. And this is the problem I had. Okay, again, don't mind my tone, volition is still good. Okay, so I called out Alex on this, right? And you can see this. I broke it down and I explained it. I've done this for 13, 14 years now, right? And what he did say is what I'm describing, everything I explained to you, I explained how the amygdala works, I explained how the scientific process of this, I explained the historical process of women's anxiety. And what he had said was, what you're describing is not objectification. Objectification is when a man looks at a woman in a way that makes them uncomfortable, and it's violence. And it was such an elementary description of this that I'm not going to sit down and just listen to that. That doesn't even make sense. A woman can be uncomfortable for many reasons. My girl can be uncomfortable at me, my woman, whatever I want to call her. I know some people go, oh my God, don't call your woman a girl, whatever. It's what the woman is comfortable with. But I could just be looking at her and it's that time of the month, whatever is happening with her hormones, her mood, and she's like, well, why are you looking at me like that? She could feel uncomfortable. A woman gets to feel that way because of her biological makeup. And a man should not have an issue with that when he is trained. He should accept that, yes, you can look at a woman and she is uncomfortable, but that does not make it violence. And for a man to say that is violence, it's as if the man actually understands what the violence is. It is very presumptive. No, you do not. I do not understand what that violence against a woman is like because I am not a woman. So men should be very, what's the harm? The harm is that a man should be very careful to make sure that he does not become a mouthpiece for women's agenda. That does not make it a bad thing. A man can be a male feminist, he can be a supporter of women, but he has to be very careful that he's not neutering men, in the process of defending and supporting women. And language like this, such as objectification is violence that is being used by men who are trying to help other men, is neutering language. What I explained with the amygdala is that men will objectify. It starts off, if they do not control themselves, when a man biologically sees a woman, what the amygdala is going to do is just going to take in signals from how the woman looks, her face, her hair, her body, because the biological part of us is just designed to have sex and procreate. A civilized man, a man of control, gets in those signals and understands how to control it. That is what he does, right? But a man who is uncivilized makes it violence. All right. Whew. I hope that makes my point. I'm going to stop there. I don't want this to go beyond 20 minutes. But the point that I want to make here is that it is not the concept of containment that Alex is talking about that is problematic. There is nothing wrong with that. I think it is noble. I believe that many of the men who have been through his program have experienced great transformation. But some of these things, and it's not just those two, there are many that he puts out that I'm like, nope. They come from a place where a man is muted. Sure, you will probably improve your relationship. Your partner will be so much more satisfied, perhaps. You may transform yourself, and I hope this is transformation. You may transform yourself because a lot of this information, for the most part for men, is new, and they need to hear it. But at the same time, there are so many men who come to me muted. There are so many men who take this to a certain level, and time will tell, and they are surprised when their partner has an issue with them. They are surprised when there is friction and they feel like they have been doing everything right. I'm going to stop here. There's a whole nother thing I'm going to say about tension and relationships, And I haven't explored Alex's work deep enough to be able to make an educated video on that. But those are some of the things that have popped up for me. I'm very curious as to um, what you guys think about that. And before anybody goes to say like, oh, you didn't go through Alex thing on containment, he personally sent me his manifesto. I watched it and I read the entire thing 2 or 3 times. And yes, I read and I saw what it said. I saw it and I read it, and it sounds great and it looks great. But what is being used to propagate it, the posts that he's putting out, do not match. To me, they sound like great ideas that are being made to fit into something else. But the premise and the principles they're standing on, I just don't believe they work. That's my piece on it. You'll have a great day.